Good evening, everybody. This is Darius Assemi. Happy 4th of July week to all my friends and relatives and residents of this beautiful country, uh, and also those Americans that are living abroad, many in U.S. Army bases in over 80 parts of the world. Uh, Along with my um, co-host, Bill McEwen, News Director, GVY. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Darius.
Okay, let's get right to it. Beautiful weather today, only 101. It could be 110 um, in the triple digits, but nice cooling off for our 4th of July celebrations. Please be aware of dogs in the neighborhood and your own dogs. Dogs get really scared. Most our pets get really scared of explosions and firecrackers. So please be careful about that. There's a poll we have, which we're not ready to show yet because there's not enough respondents. What is the right deportation policy for the United States? Please go to the to GVWire website or on Facebook. Uh, the poll is there. Please feel free to fill it out. There are very few respondents, and right now deport all undocumented immigrants is over 50%, but very few folks have voted. So we're going to keep that open for another year. I'm kidding, for a few more days, probably through the fourth weekend, fourth, fifth, sixth. They'll probably take it off Monday morning. So please, if you care about immigration and want your voice heard, please fill out that poll. That which leads us to a path forward on immigration reform that strengthens America. Great opinion piece by Supervisor Luis Chavez. And Bill and I were talking this morning. He's kind of putting a few congressmen, at least Congressman Costa, on notice. We got to do something about it. Let me bring Bill in. Uh, Bill's got a few very strong thoughts on this as well. And all of you know how I feel about comprehensive immigration reform, how immigrants are the backbone of our country for centuries, going back 200, almost 250 years. Bill, your points on the
Well,
opinion piece.
Darius, I agree with you, and I think viewers to the show tonight should just look at these building blocks of smart immigration reform, a path for earned citizenship, a guest worker process for in-demand industries, dreamers given priority and a fast track for to earn permanent citizenship. Many of the dreamers have, been here nearly their whole lives. And let's not ignore reality. We need a secure border to ensure that violent criminals, terrorists, cartel members can't get into our country. Need strong vetting. And then we need to clear the criteria for refugees that come to America just as they have for more than a century. It's to seek asylum, to have religious freedom, to flee their own country where their lives may be in danger. And, I think this is being lost. America is still, despite all of America's flaws, has a fantastic constitution and has freedom of speech and is still a beacon to immigrants. Darius, I want to make one other point. We have congressmen, including those who represent the Valley, that say immigration reform's too complicated, we can't get it done. Well, you know what? One of the third rails of California politics was you can't ever change CEQA. That's the California Environmental Quality Act. We had governors who said, hey, you guys can talk about it, but I know it's not going to happen. Or we had governors that made half-hearted attempts. I think Governor Newsom is very stung right now. And I think he's kind of tired of listening to advisors. I think he's tired of playing politics the way he always has. And so what did he do? He told the legislature, I'm not signing your budget bill unless you pass CEQA reform. So something that Californians thought to be impossible was done Monday, and it was forced by the governor.
We're gonna
If we
Yeah,
can have CEQA reform, we can have immigration reform.
and I'm gonna get back to that in a few minutes, and you're gonna elaborate a lot more on CEQA reform. You're right. Uh, what did Jerry Brown say? CEQA reform is mother of what is God's work, but nobody wants to do it because from developers to unions to NIMBYs, not in my backyard, folks, will use CEQA as a tool to kill opportunities for more development, whether it's commercial, retail, office, or residential. Okay, let me quickly move on. Let's bring back slide 4 again. So all those points are about the opinion page by Supervisor Luis Chavez that is talking about, and basically putting our members of Congress on notice. By the way, Council Member Arias said the same thing a few weeks ago. If you cannot do comprehensive immigration reform, you need to resign from Congress. It's a demand need in our country. So what does government do? Just send, by the way, covered up. Which I don't understand why ICE members are just fully face masked. They go in and basically grab people and deport them. Fix the problem. You're just trying to put a little band-aid on the wound or taking aspirin for the massive tumor that's in your head. Go get tumor therapy, which is comprehensive immigration reform. And shame on our politicians, elected officials, and Congress that they can't execute that. And I know President Trump wants it because he almost got that in his first term. Last president that was courageous enough to do something about immigration was President Reagan, Republican president in his second term, 86, 87. Okay, let's quickly move on. Some international news. Britain's co-op stores to stop sourcing from Israel as part of a protest against Israeli occupation, killing, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it a massacre. Some people call it genocide. Some people call, well, we know that 50 to 70,000 people have been killed. The next slide. This is United Nations peacekeepers, UN member of the United Nations. Can't remember her exact title. It's what is that? Lisa. I'm sorry, Lisa Doughton. Gaza is home to the largest cohort of child amputees in modern history. We cannot claim ignorance of what is happening, nor can we afford to look away from United Nations. One of the reasons probably co-op looked at that and goes, gosh, we are supporting uh, a lot of deaths. United Kingdom is, United States is. Not, I don't want to say support death, support not getting a peace resolution and allowing these folks to have their own homeland. I mean, Israel is a homeland for Jews. That's how it started. Why can't the Palestinians have a homeland? Let's go to slide 8. Israeli officials to hold ceasefire talks in Washington amid military escalation in Gaza. And Israel is facing genocide accusations amid Gaza food aid killings. Food aid killings. Some folks have described it to death traps. Paul, if we have that slide from was it Mercy Corps? One that was a Mercy Corps that says the food aid centers are being converted to death traps. Israeli soldiers opening fire. If we have that, let's put that slide. Let's get that slide up here shortly. Um, slide 10. Israel acknowledges Palestinian civilians harmed at Gaza aid site. Israel even admits that. Sounds like we do not have that slide. Actually, I have it, and I'm going to send it to you, Eric, here shortly. Trump says Israel has agreed to conditions to finalize 60-day Gaza ceasefire. Let me move on to slide 13 and quickly 14. And I'm going to turn it over to Bill. Vice President J.D. Vance cast a tie-breaking vote in the Senate to back the bill, the big President Trump's big beautiful bill. 3 Republican senators, Susan Collins, Rand Paul, and Thorne Tillis, voted against. Of course, Thorne Tillis said he's not going to run for re-election. Elon Musk says a Senate bill would destroy jobs and harm U.S. And then President Trump is escalating feud with Musk, threatens Tesla and SpaceX support. That's the next slide. Let's put that up. There we go. Bill, you have any thoughts on before we get into the CEQA reform?
Sure. On the Senate bill, I mean, economists who are respected say that if this bill can get through the House and is signed, it will cost America about 2.3 million jobs. We know there are all kinds of estimates on how many trillions it would add to the U.S. debt. The other thing is, excuse me, this bill passed in the Senate because they did rescind the taxes on green energy that was put in there. And Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Joni Ernest from Iowa, green energy, very important to their states. They were able to get that in there, so they went ahead and voted for it. However, what they put in there really doesn't help green energy production in the United States and Darius, many red states, because they got incentives from the Biden administration, future tax credits. They're starting infrastructure projects to support green energy. And now we have green energy advocates saying this will be the largest energy price increase in the history of the nation. And we know many of the people in red states are struggling. They live paycheck to paycheck. And if they're going to have a 15 to 20% energy bill hike, I don't think they're going to be very happy about that. So to me, this bill has never made sense. But then you could say, oh, Bill, you're a policy wonk. Really don't understand what's going on here. And I'll finish with this, Darius. When you talk about how big this would add to the debt, the bond markets will be the ultimate deciders of this.
That's a great point, Bill. The bond market is apolitical, doesn't care about Republicans, Democrats, and both sides have accused one another of overspending. Typically, the difference is about 1 or 2%, whether it's military spending, tax hikes, or tax cuts. But this one, of course, has got a lot of tax cuts. Folks go $4 trillion to the debt. That's a lot of money, but it's also digits that the Federal Reserve can just print with a couple of clicks on the keyboard and create wealth. Again, Federal Reserve, a private entity, only entity that has the authority to print money, can print as much as they want. Of course, the more they print, the higher the inflation will go. But I remember out of college, I go, oh my gosh, our deficit is $300 to $400 billion total, and now our total budget, national deficit, is over 30 trillion. Interest rates are high right now, but like Bill was talking about the 10-year bond market. The 10-year bond is what is the number at 4.5? It's hovering around 4.5%.
So here's the thing: if the bond markets aren't confident in America's budget, the Trump plan, and it goes into effect, interest rates will have to go up to attract buyer interest in the bond market, and that would add to, the debt as well. So to me, these calculations on what this would add to our debt are preliminary.
No, there's and we can talk about that, but we got a lot of other things to cover. But the what is it? Goldman Sachs's number is once the deficit gets to 172% or 170% of the budget of the GDP. I'm sorry, of the GDP, then we get in trouble. Let me just quickly get to a couple of comments, and then we're going to move on to your C-Corp reform. And anything else we wanted to talk about that. But a couple of comments. Chris Dowdy, Newsom only did that to cover his butt with housing for his presidential run in 28. That's about C-Corp reform. Chris also says solving the immigration issue will dry up campaign donations. Politicians are too scared to do that. Myrna, my parents came on the Bracero program in the 70s, worked the jobs that are in harsh environments. Very true. A lot of immigrants work a lot harder. Bruce Kinnebrew, Palestinians have been offered a two-state solution over and over. There's only one group that refuses the two-state solution. Actually, they have not been offered a two-state solution. I think they would have taken a two independent state solution. The only one that I know of is the Oslo Accords. And then there was an Israeli fanatic that assassinated the prime minister that signed that within a few months of that. I think that everybody wants their own homeland, independent, without occupation. I think that goes for all human beings and members of all countries. Myrna Garcia, 900 plus pages. Our economy is going to tank before we cover. If we survive, the middle class will disappear. Either you'll be rich or poor. Homeless population is going to increase. The medical crisis. I think she's referring to the big beautiful bill that is, I think, on its way. Is it going? I think it's going back to the House for them to adopt the changes, and then if they agree, I think if I'm correct, it'll just go to the president. You wanted to sign it before July 4th. It's still time. We have a couple of days. Jenny Garcia, Trump, I wish someone would take. Oh, okay. You can read Jenny Garcia's comments on Facebook. Bill, anything else on?
Well, yes,
The sequel
Darius, I
bill?
think this would be a good time to segue into the House situation. President Trump has said many times he wants to sign it on July 4th. He's given those marching orders to John Thune in the Senate and to Speaker Johnson in the House. I had a story 2 days ago about Congressman David Valadao from Kings County. Yes, he voted for the House version, but he said, hey, that was just to begin the deliberations process. A big factor is the huge cuts in Medicaid. For his district, it would be $5 billion in cuts over 10 years. And, if you're talking about the whole country, it'd be 700 billion. So everybody's looking at Valadao. Darius, you remember he voted to impeach Trump, even though he's a Republican. And I think he's the only Republican who voted to impeach who's still in the House. Now he lost his seat, but he got it back. He's up for re-election in 2026. This Medicaid issue is huge. And today there's reporting out of Washington, D.C. So Valadao and 15 others sent a letter to the leadership saying, we can't support the Senate version. Now that number is more than 20. And the number opposed are conservative, very conservative Republicans who oppose raising the debt limit and a spending plan that's going to add to the national debt. They want fiscal responsibility. Then you have about 15 Republicans. Their districts are Medicaid dependent districts. They're districts that depend on SNAP, which we call, commonly known as food stamps. And so I don't think it's going to be signed by July 4th. I'm sure there are going to be all kinds of threats against these congressmen. Trump has said anyone that opposes them he'll run somebody against them. Senator Tillis just said, I'm not going to run for reelection. I have to stand my moral ground. So this is the big fight coming up. Senate's done. Now the focus is going to move on to the House of Representatives.
We should get Congressman Valadeo on this show maybe next week. The vote is probably done by then. It's either signed, the bill is signed, or it's still going through back and forth discussions. Uh, we'll make an attempt to get Congressman Valadeo if he's available. With that, let's dive into your CEQA discussions. Bill, anything else on that? Let's put slide 24 up. New California environmental rollbacks could boost housing projects in Fresno.
So I think it's too early to tell at this point. Even the experts like in Fresno City Planning over at Clovis, they're studying it. Basically, it speeds the path up for smaller projects, especially infill projects, but it does have a very controversial component, which is it clears the decks for advanced manufacturing. So these would be considered industrial projects, right? And Darius, as you know, there's been many fights over the last 10 years about industrial expansion. We've had those political battles right here in Fresno. Basically, water infrastructure projects, they get the green light. The other thing, though, is projects that are deemed not to have major impacts, they're going to go through a much more limited environmental review. So right now, we can be optimistic that housing production is going to increase, housing costs are going to come down, we're going to have more housing available for the homeless. Certainly, this was very important to Governor Newsom. And unlike some of the viewers, I don't care what the governor's motivation is. He just got something done that no one's been able to do. So, say what you want about Governor Newsom. I'm sure if this is successful, it'll be part of his presidential campaign. The other thing is, I'm going to be watching very closely as to what else he tries to accomplish, what else he carries a big, big stick to the fight and uses the power of the governorship. As Darius, the powers entrusted to the California governor might be the greatest in the nation. It's not a figurehead job. It's not a glad handing job. California governor has real power. So we'll see how he uses it in the time he has left. Newsom said, we got to get out of our own damn way in California. And he lectured Democrats and said, you got to focus on pocketbook issues. Californians, we're losing people because they can't afford to live here. We got to bring the cost of living down. So it's good news to me.
And it's good news to me. If we can get more homes built, more commercial retail developments that people love enjoying and having in their neighborhoods, let's do it. And of course, the more homes that get built, the more the price of homes will stabilize and eventually, ultimately, potentially come down. Which kind of takes me to, again, cost of living. Bill, you hit the nail on the head. It's the economy, stupid, or in this case, it's the cost of living in California that is driving so many people out of the state and thinking, I got to vote Republican because Democrats are just adding more costs, more fees, more regulation, and businesses are going to pass those costs along to us, which kind of brings me to our next item, slide 25. If you're buying a home with solar, beware of California bill written by a former utility company executive. Great article. I think Edward Smith wrote that article. People buying a home with solar panels would be put into the new solar rates, drastically lowering incentives. If I understand this correctly, you have solar on your home, you spent 20, 30 grand, you're going to sell it. The new buyer goes, oh, this house comes with solar, but it's subject to the new regs that are going into effect, which means what? PG&E is gonna buy the power from you when you produce it, which is during the daytime, at a set rate, which is, the way I understand it, substantially lower than a typical rate we pay when we use air conditioning, which is typically in the evening. Currently, program is every kilowatt of electricity you produce, you get a credit. So you get have X amount of credits. You come home at night and you use that credit. But at least in the PG&E system, the way I understand this bill, I understand it, it's going to change the way credits are given. You basically PG&E will buy it from you at we should get the actual
Basically at
exact
the
numbers.
wholesale rate.
At wholesale, it's 4 to 5 cents. Yeah, let's use the wholesale rate number, and you're gonna buy it back at retail when you come home at night to turn your air conditioning on.
So the big thing, Darius, is people bought solar and they get into one of these credit systems and they have a 10 or 20-year contract. And now and it was supposed to be transferable. And now someone buys the house, that old contract immediately ends and you're thrust into a new contract. So what gets me is, how can people trust California government? You said, hey, if you spend X, you do solar, you're going to get a great deal for 10 years, you're going to get a great deal for 20 years. And now what do? Oh, yeah, you might only get a good deal for 2 years, forget the 10 or 20. So to me, it's switch and bait. And you know what? If it wasn't written by liberal Democrats, they'd be calling it switch and bait. And they'd be demanding that the attorney general look into it.
Yeah,
But these phonies, it's like, we do what we want, you need to do what you say. And then the other thing is just the obvious thing. The person that wrote this legislation worked for Edison International for a long time. So Edison International is the parent company of Southern California Edison. So we know this is going to be a great deal for the utility companies. And it just shows you the back and forth between the legislature and lobbying and everything else. The whole thing stinks. We're making a big deal about it, but just based on the vote so far, looks like it's going to pass. Maybe the new, bold, brave Gavin Newsom might have something to say about it.
good point. Especially if he wants to govern the United States and be looking out for their pocketbook. Okay, let's fast forward to Measure C, which is really a transportation tax. Sunsets next year sometime. It's up for renewal. It's been a 20-year tax, half a cent sales tax county-wide that goes into transportation projects by and large. Multiple competing forces are looking at controlling what the narrative is going to be, what the legislation is going to be, or what the ballot measure is going to be, whether it goes to the ballot or it's passed with the county board of soups.
Well,
Blackmail.
Darius, it
Yeah.
has to go to the ballot. It has to go
Okay.
to the ballot.
So it's going to
It's
go to.
about how does it get on the ballot?
Is it by signature or is it by the vote of the county board of soups?
Right.
And that will determine whether it's 50% plus one, if it's signature gathering, or if it's board of soups votes to put it on there, which now he needs 2/3 plus one. Okay, Measure C blackmail, that's Fresno Enviro Coalition, gets huge say on transportation tax, and that's the Building Healthy Communities uh, bill. They got a 30%, 1/3 of the membership on the committee. Is that correct?
Yeah, nearly 1/3, 12 of 38 seats. This Transportation for All group. City of Fresno only gets 3.
Wow,
So
that's
the
incredible.
Building Industry Association gets 1 seat. Chamber of Commerce gets 1 seat. So they flexed a lot of muscle, and we'll see what they throw out there. It's interesting because in the past, members of this group have demanded much more spending for transit and the like. And yet, when they've gone out and done their own community meetings, the residents have said, we want our roads fixed.
Yeah, roads fixed, and I've said this many times on this program. We need to have congestion relief. If you don't get congestion relief, I will not be supporting this new tax extension. Okay, let's quickly dive into. Despite a $49 million deficit, Fresno Unified gives top brass 5% raise, 3% one-time bonus. Be interesting to see how the teachers feel about this and what's going to happen. What their reaction is going to be. Um,
So Darius,
yeah,
teachers are getting the 5% raise, 3% one-time bonus. They negotiated that, but there's nothing in the contract that says whatever the teachers get, that has to go to the top brass as
is
well.
okay.
And
So
you would note
yeah,
with the 49 million deficit and the salaries that Fresno Unified's administration makes, just from a public relations standpoint, if I was one of them, I'd say, you know what, I'm going to forego that raise and that bonus, or I'm going to take it, but I'm going to write a check to the Fresno Unified Foundation for scholarships. To me, it's just very unseemly. And for Superintendent Misty Herr, there was some clapback on her high starting salary, considering she'd never been a superintendent before. And she's in, the job for 2 months. She gets an $11,000 raise right
there you
off the
go.
bat.
There you go. Something we've talked about here, and the performance. I haven't seen updated scores. Uh, we're going to be sharing those as performance scores or test scores come out on English and math for Fresno Unified students. Uh, okay, Fresno Unified's embattled communications director, Nikki Henry, exits. Quote, I own my mistake. I won't let it own me. So she's been gone for a few weeks on leave, and there's a lot of rumors flying around, but article came out this afternoon by Edward Smith. Communications chief Nikki Henry announced on social media she has left the position. Henry took responsibility for producing a document ordered by Superintendent Misty Herr. Document fabricated attacks by the teachers union. FDA president said the district is still trying to excuse deliberate misinformation. I bet Nikki Henry knows a lot about what's going on inside Fresno Unified. Be interesting to see what kind of a release Fresno Unified puts out about her departure.
They're not going to put out a release story.
Are they gonna? Are they gonna? Do you think, Bill? Let me ask you this: do you think they've had her sign a mum? The mum's the word. Don't you can't say anything. Either we're going to sue you or we're going to not pay you money. Would you think that the district has done something like that with
Well,
Nikki?
as we saw in the superintendent search, Fresno Unified's a big fan of NDAs.
That's true. That's true. Uh,
So she was given a severance package. It's going to have to be accounted for somewhere in the budget. It'd be subject to a Public Records Act. Um, they would probably fight to keep the name, saying it was a personnel, to keep the name secret, saying it was a personnel matter. They might even cite that an NDA was signed if one was signed. So that's something we're gonna do. We're gonna ask to see we're gonna ask them if there was a severance package, how much it was. And we'll
Ca-
see what their answer is.
yeah, I think you answered Cam Malloy's question. Do you think she got a large package as she left? We're going to find out, and Public Records Act will actually, hopefully, show that information. Let's move on. Labor icon Huerta breaks ground on Fresno Park, bearing her name. I believe it's the park, which will include the 4.5 acre park, includes pickleball courts, dog parks, splash pad, and EV charging. West of 99. I think it's close to or across or very close to Central East, in a part of town that really needs parks. That's a picture of council member Annalisa Perea, uh, Ms. Dolores Huerta, and Assemblywoman Soria, whose district that this was her district.
And so,
Before.
Darius, you should note that the funding, much of the funding comes from Proposition 68, a state proposition for parks and the like, and none of the money involved will come from Measure P. So Assemblywoman Soria had a big hand in bringing this here.
Good job, and that's what good job to her and Annalisa Perea, councilwoman for that district. That's what the image of the park rendering of what it could look like. It looks actually gorgeous. Was it $4.5 million, $5.5 million, $12 million park in west of 99, which really needs attractive looking parks. Really looking forward to getting this park built, finished. It sounds like it's going to be ready sometime next year. What is the deadline? August of 26th, a little over a year from now.
We'll see if they pull that off.
That's a 1 year to build that park. That's a long time, Bill. Okay, but it's public sector. I get it. Cost more. It will take longer.
So,
But go ahead.
Darius, the other thing is at the groundbreaking, Assemblywoman Soria, who's running for the state Senate seat because Ana Caballero is termed out, Soria endorsed Annalisa Perea, who's running for Soria's seat today, and Soria is running against Sandra Celadon, another Democrat, and she's the leader of that Transportation for All group and very involved in this Measure C situation.
Okay, let's bring that so everybody sees. Okay, so that's Sandra Celadon in this image that's going to be up on the screen right now. Oops, come on. Let's put 27 back up, please. There we go. That's Sandra Celadon, who is running. She's running against Annalisa or against Esmeralda?
No, against Annalisa.
For the assembly district. Yeah.
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 And she has the backing of the Urambula family. So this is going to be a battle royale among Fresno area Democrats.
Perea against Perea's and
against the Urambulas and Soria weighing in on it and everything else.
okay.
Going to be a lot of money spent in that race.
You heard it here first, folks. I think we're done early for this July 4th week. Bill, anything else? Any final words from you?
No, no more, no fireworks for me. Enjoyed the show tonight. Everybody, check out gvwire.com. Today was a huge news day. We broke the story about Nikki Henry. We had a story we didn't even get to. 6 Republicans in the California legislature sent in a letter to President Trump saying, don't deport our undocumented who are vital workers. And I will note, Darius, very disappointing. Only one lawmaker, Republican lawmaker from the Valley, signed that. All the rest were from Southern California, and that's the assembly member from Ripon. And they said, go after violent criminals who are undocumented. We don't want them here, we don't need them here. But our farm workers, our construction workers, our hotel workers, they're vital. President Trump, you're creating fear in all of our communities. The way I characterized it is I said, they're telling President Trump to do deportation with a scalpel instead of a blunt instrument. And
Yeah.
hopefully that message gets through.
I want to echo what you're saying, Bill, because yeah, everything I've seen and I've heard is creating chaos, tearing families apart. Yeah, these folks are here undocumented. My Republican friends say, oh, they broke the law, they're criminals. Okay, you want to deport all of them? Yes, let's deport all of them. That's what they tell me.
They're
First
not,
question,
first of all, they're not
they're,
criminals. It's a
they're,
civil infraction.
it's
It's
so
not even a crime.
okay. So let's assume you're correct, which I'm pretty sure you are. Who's gonna mow your lawn? You deport some of these folks? Already, folks' lawns, because some of these folks have self-deported. They don't want some black masked person with a gun walking up to them, grabbing them, their kid, and their wife, and say, "You're getting out of your house in the afternoon, in the morning, in the middle. I don't know if it's the middle of the night or not. And we're going to deport you to where? I haven't been. I've left Mexico 20 years ago, or whatever, whenever it was. This is a very bad policy. Fix the damn problem. Do comprehensive immigration reform. This, by the way, gets headlines. There's folks that go, oh, yes, deport these folks. Deport them. And there's always examples of immigrants, illegal, undocumented immigrants that have committed crimes. There's always going to be examples of those, just like there is Americans committing crimes. But to pick on those and say all immigrants got to be deported, okay. And part of me says, okay, if they did that for a day, all immigrants said, for 5 days we're not going to show up to work. Let's look at the kind of mess this country is going to be in. From again, construction, farming, hospitality, so many jobs that Americans that are born here
Healthcare.
don't want to do that, regardless of the most folks, especially in Fresno. You want to go work when it's 103 degrees? No, the answer is no. We need government is not doing its job. I've said it many times. It needs to do its job, have a comprehensive immigration reform so folks know if I want to come to this country, here's the pathway. I got to go apply. Here's my skill set. They do a quick background check. They go, do we need immigrants? Yeah, we do. So the quota this year is for X number of individual groups: brainy folks, labor folks, investment folks with a lot of money, um, and government. So many of my friends have told me, and including on this show, um, Chris Dowdy has said it many times. There's too much money uh, in not getting this stuff done. There's too much money to be made, not to be made. Too much campaign contributions. If folks go, no, we're not going to do immigration reform. These folks have got to get deported. But what's the next chess move? What's going to happen to our country? Okay, we deported these folks. Then what? Then who's going to do all the jobs that these 11 to whatever the number, 14 million undocumented are doing? They got to come out of the shadows. There's several things in this world that I just can't understand why our country is not supporting. I'm going to go back to what Miguel Arias said, Councilmember Arias. You can't do immigration reform, get out of Congress. You don't deserve to be reelected. It's one of the biggest problems that we have 11 to 15 million undocumented. Deal with the problem. If you want to deport all of them, listen, deport all of them. Be honest, we want to deport all of them. And deport all of them. First of all, that'll cost billions of dollars. Where are we going to deport them to? And number two, what's going to happen to our economy? That and also the not providing enough support for a third party military force to rule, at least to have a peacekeeping force in Gaza. I mean, 2.2 million people are starving to death. And if President Trump wanted to end that, he could end it with one snap of a finger. Israel, you listen to me. We're gonna bring our own humanitarian aid compounds, and we're gonna bring a peacekeeping force in Gaza until we resolve this issue. We have to stop killing people that are in aid camps. You're assassinating them. I mean, Israel has admitted it, and Gideon Levy, who's written many articles from Haaretz, Israeli newspaper, he's a journalist. He's written many articles about this issue. I just can't understand why both of those items are not getting addressed. Take our poll, please, on immigration. Is there a Republican running for Assembly 31? It probably is. I'm not sure. We'll probably have more of that information as we get closer. Chris Daddy, they could never win that seat. Olivier was the last potential Republican to run, and he lost by 13 points. Okay. Linda Samuelian, yes, Trump could easily give aid, but many private organizations could too. Mercy Corps is one of those organizations that's raising money. There's a lot of them. United Nations is raising money for folks in Gaza. But first, we got to make sure the war ends. First, we give 3 to 4. I think last year was $20 billion of military aid to Israel, so it can prosecute that war. It's not a war really, because you have armed forces of Israel against a bunch of folks on the ground. Call them terrorists. And majority of Palestinians have rallied against Hamas. Hamas started this thing October 7th. Of course, occupation goes back to 1948. Nobody wants to be occupied. No human being wants to be under the thumb of another government that constantly harasses it. Yes, but Israel blocking the aid? It looks like they have. I don't have all the details, but it's a lot of information on GBWire, on our international section about this conflict. Please go to gbwire.com and get all the information you need. Have a great 4th. Be safe. We're so blessed to live in this beautiful country, and hope to see you all next week. Be safe and take care. And good night.